Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Disrupt Your Now, the show for entrepreneurs who are sick and tired of checking off the boxes. Our guest tonight is Jon King. Y'all are going to love Jon's story, and I think he's going to be so inspiring to you. He is retired military, and he's also works for Microsoft, but he took hardships in his life and used them as inspiration to start a small business and a nonprofit. And I just want to, I'm not going to tell you too much. I'm going to let Jon tell you. But Jon, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'm beyond honored to be here. I've told you since we first had our first engagement, it's super exciting for me just to meet and greet people as I'd go through the different things that I've gone through, especially in the last little bit that
Mhm.
brought us together in our communications and conversations. I mean, me and you sit there for what, 3 hours the other day? It was supposed to be a 30-minute meeting. So it's,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And I look
Oh,
forward
I
to the
did
future
too.
conversations.
And I just realized I forgot my damn tissues. Sorry. So look, y'all, if I cry, I cry. Most people that watch me regularly are already used to it, but I'm like, dang it. Yeah. Oh
I've,
well, I'll
I've
just
got
grab
mine.
one.
I've got mine ready.
I'll
Big
grab
size.
one through the screen. I'll use my sleeve or something. But I was just so, first of all, I had a great time talking with you the other day, and it was inspiring and exciting and everything, but also touched my heart. So when you combine all of it together, it just, you have so much that you can offer to people, whether they're looking for hope or whether they're looking for new ideas or inspiration. So I want you to tell us about your background. You can start wherever you want and talk about as little or as much as you want.
All right. Just because I'm proud of where I'm from. I was born and raised in a small town in Arkansas that I managed to make it all the way through, graduated, had the opportunity to have a full ride to college, but figured out real quick because I had an older brother that I got to go the year before to college and experience that for a weekend. I was like,
I
I need a
did
little more
that.
structure. So from there, I ended up joining the Air Force, where I did secure communications for just over 10 years out of Offutt Air Force Base on the E-4B, the Doomsday plane. That's the one you see off the shoulder here.
Mhm.
Um, and had a great time there doing secure communications and growing as an airman and as a leader, as well as learning to be an instructor evaluator as part of that. And then the opportunity came up to apply for the Army, where somebody had rambled in my ear that they'd pay you more than let you fly helicopters. So it's like, who don't want to take the chance at that?
Exactly. Why not?
Yeah. So for me, and I think you'll start seeing a trend through our conversation, but I got told no the first time that I put my package in. And ironically enough, I walked together with another gentleman. We built our packages. We had very similar, if not the same, letters of recommendation and things like that. And he got picked up the first look. I didn't. So I got picked up on the second look. Ended up getting Blackhawks out of what is now Fort Novosel, used to be Fort Rucker. And then I was identified to go to the Fort Campbell 101st, which I was stoked about because most everybody's heard of the 101st or the 82nd Airborne.
Yeah.
You've not ever been in the Army. So there they had me scheduled to go to the unit that they generically would call the air assault unit because it applies to multiple different units, not just one single one. But anyways, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do the medevac because at that point I was 12 years into my 20-year determination of commitment. So I wanted to do something that when I walked away, I knew that I had provided value.
Yeah.
So got told I was going one area, fought my way to somewhere else within that organization, down from the brigade to the battalion. And then the battalion, they were like, all right, you're not going there, you're going here. And I was like, I already fought to get here. This is why I'm here. This is where I'm going. And again, me being me, ended up getting the medevac. I was the first W1 they'd seen in like 3 years. They'd just come off a hard deployment of '09, where they were in Afghanistan and just had just a long tour, we'll say. And so
Yeah.
here I am, fresh eared, ready to learn, ready to get after it, ready to save some lives is what I'm thinking. And they're like, go find a fridge and just do that. And
Yeah. Because
so
they're burnt out, right?
Oh yeah,
They're
absolutely.
like,
They're
"We just
wore
got
out.
back. We need to lay low for a bit." Yeah.
Absolutely. So, when people that don't know the warrant officer community, one of the first things they give you as a new warrant when you show up to a unit is fridge duty. And a lot of people would look at that and go, I'm not doing that. I'm a pilot. I'm not
Yeah.
stocking a fridge. Well, guess what? If you can't take that small task and do it very well and show that you can be successful at that, why would I ever trust you to sit in a multi-million-dollar aircraft and put my life on your lines?
Yeah.
So it does have some sense to it where
Mhm.
it's a bit silly in some aspects. It really does show you that level of detail and responsibility that is required in an area like that.
And you have
So
to know that people are willing to do whatever it takes, not just the big, huge stuff, but the little things that they may think they're too good to do.
definitely, definitely. So being there at the 101st at the medevac, I ended up staying there my entire time in the Army. During the first deployment to Afghanistan and RC South, I hadn't even had the ink dry on the house we were buying and got orders saying, "Hey, you're moving." And I was like,
Thanks
"Of
so
course I
much.
am." Well,
Welcome to
ended
the
up,
army, right?
yeah, ended up making a trade with another gentleman that happened to have the same last name and rank as I, and he took that assignment, and I kept his there at Campbell. And little did I know that it was going to hold me there for the rest of my time in the Army, which I absolutely loved and have zero regrets about because the mission that I did while I was there is just phenomenal.
Mm.
And I commend those that still do it today. But ended up doing 3 deployments with them. And at the end of my tour there in the Army, had some stuff come up about training events and different agreements that we had made with the career manager, if you will, and they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And I told them I was retired.
Mhm.
And less than 6 weeks later, I'd hand walk my retirement package through and had my orders canceled.
That is fast in the military.
Yeah. Again, I don't deal in what ifs. I don't deal in I could do this. If you're going to do it, do it.
Yep.
Get after it. So, as part of that, I ended up having the opportunity and learning about the MSSA program. And for those that don't know, it's a Microsoft Software and Systems Academy. It's a 18-week program that allows transition veterans to learn about more IT skills. So for me, it was cloud and server administration. But when I did it, it was structured where you had your technical training in the morning, and then you had your afternoon portion that was more about the resume writing, the interview prep, and mock interviews. So it being a newer program and not having all the kinks worked out, I'm not a technical guy. So I focus more on the resume writing and mock interviews and networking and LinkedIn profile building and things like that,
Mhm.
which ultimately I didn't land at Microsoft then, but I ended up getting and landing a job with a small company here in Huntsville that I was their first employee under their company name, which I thought was phenomenal that they were willing to take a risk on me, as well as, to their words, me taking a bit of a risk on them from that aspect.
What kind of company was it?
It was a Army Acquisitions
Okay.
company, Stratagem Solutions.
Mhm.
They're two gentlemen that started it. They also started a nonprofit, SSI Shares, which I'm still a board member of and support wholeheartedly with what they do for the local community and things like that. Um, that being said, helped them grow to about 23 employees by the time I had the opportunity to uh, do an informational here at Microsoft. I still stayed in contact with my lead mentor from the program, just because I believe you should have multiple mentors in your life, not just a single one, because then you're only getting a single view. Whereas if
Yeah.
you have multiple, you've got multiple views, multiple angles to figure things out, different avenues of approach. There's just so many nuances that go with having multiple mentors and having
Yeah.
them at all ages too. That's
Ri
another thing.
Yeah, that's great. Great points, multiple mentors, all ages, and you stayed in contact.
Hmm.
So many people are like, they have a mentor or they meet somebody networking or whatever. They say, hey, whatever. If they don't get what they want right then, they're on to the next thing. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to point that out. That was key.
Absolutely. And you have to stay in contact with folks and build those relationships and that rapport. So fast forward to the 3 year mark, had a informational with one of the hiring managers, and then Microsoft had a hiring freeze for a year. So I just sit on ice for a year, working for the company that I continue to work for, continue to do my thing. And then had the opportunity to do a interview loop a year later, got picked up. So whenever I transitioned from Microsoft, from the company I worked for, I hand delivered my replacement, an individual that I thought very highly of, that I knew could do the job, that I knew the customer already liked and had
Mhm.
engagements with, as well as somebody that would fit right into the environment that they were going to get into, and brought them to the company and kind of handing them off. And as far as I know, they're still tracking and doing great things over there, which I think is phenomenal, from that aspect. But then,
And that I'm going to interrupt again because I
yeah,
want people to pay attention. That is another thing that's so important. You had your next opportunity, but you weren't just like, bye, y'all, see you later. You gave a hand up to somebody else and you helped the people that you were leaving. And so you helped them continue to grow even though you were leaving. So I just want to point that out as well. There's so many lessons in your story.
oh, thank you. And you know, um, did I do it all right? Probably not. I tried to my best abilities to ensure that they were capable and in a good place when I left. And
Mhm.
again, I've stayed in contact with them, and I've stayed on as one of their board members in their nonprofit, from that perspective. And then ultimately that leads to me working here at Microsoft, where I have a full-time job doing customer success account manager, for Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, which
Mhm.
I've worked with them for the last 3 years. And I couldn't tell you a better place to be as far as a job opportunity and a company to work for, with their environment that they provide, their freedom to be who you are. I write how I talk. I blunt at times. I curse at times. I very aggressive and passionate on certain things. So having that recognition and being around people that are open to working with people like me, because I do have a passion and I do have a drive and I do have a determination that others might not have, but in the same hand, it's all in good intent. Like there's
Mhm.
never a time where I'm directly being, pardon my language, a jerk, or more explicit terms.
I know what you were going to
Uh,
say.
so from that perspective, I try and keep a compass in my own head of that, and be conscious of my mouth at times,
Yeah.
because I don't want it to come across as derogatory or in an inappropriate manner. It's just at certain times I'm a 20-year veteran.
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
certain languages are hard to drop at times, and it does show. I think at times a person's ignorance, and I say that because I've been in that position. I don't
Yeah.
have other words to use, so I go back to what I know.
Yeah.
So from that aspect, I do encourage people to continue to learn and grow, so that you're not in a box and you're not stuck to one thing from that aspect.
Great
Um,
point.
so
Well, and as to that, my husband's retired Navy, but he's the sailor that he says, "I'm the one with the sailor mouth."
right.
Whatever. It's true, but
It might happen once or twice, right?
once or twice an hour.
That's funny. Um, yeah. So then it kind of leads us to last year,
Mm,
and last year is where we start getting into really where I think my story begins.
yeah.
It's so had a lot of loss last year, as you're tracking. Earlier in the year, lost my father-in-law, and I'll talk a little bit more about him in a second. But then, probably about 2 months later, lost in 3 day succession my oldest brother to cancer, my uncle to suicide, and then the third day was a Monday that the two aircraft went down over Fort Campbell and the 9 soldiers died. Um, so that's really the catalyst. There was the fires, those 3 days of just ultimate loss, and what we lost in the world today
Yeah.
by losing those individuals. And for me personally, the loss of my father-in-law, because he has been my mentor, uh, my main mentor, if you will, as my go-to, right? So when we talk about mentorship and what that means, having that individual that you can go to and there is no judgment. Yeah, he's my father-in-law, and there's repercussions there on certain things if I did stupid stuff, which, you would expect from anybody.
Mhm.
But there was that level of honesty and openness that I had with him, that he could give me that blunt feedback on decisions and things that I had and needed from him in that aspect. Um, so taking all that loss and looking at the individual's accident out of Fort Campbell, being the former safety officer from there, one of the one things I did was look at the crew mix. And the analogy I use is, it may not be a great one, and I don't know the details on the accident, so I'm not speaking on anything there. As far as experience, they were all qualified. They were
Yeah.
exactly where they should have been, in that aspect. Certain things, even as a safety officer, you just can't fix or solve everything, and tragedies happen at the end of the day. Um, but the analogy I kind of give is, if you put a 16 or 17-year-old in a car, they're both licensed, they're fully qualified to drive. And now in the next car behind them, we're going to put a 15-year-old with a permit, a 16-year-old with a license, and a 21-year-old licensed person in the back seat. The 21-year-old is going to tell the 16-year-old how to tell the 15-year-old how to drive. Now we're going to send them down the interstate at 90 miles an hour, single barrier highway, curves along the way for a 10-mile stretch at night while it's raining, with one headlight out, and go 90 miles an hour to 95, stay a foot and a half apart, and no accidents happen. Well, the odds of something happening are pretty high, and the odds of it being catastrophic are even higher. So looking at that, knowing that everybody's fully experienced that, it's just not the best situation at the end of the day. And right now, there's nothing that can impactfully be done, in my view, to make that change. Because ultimately, when I looked at it, the issue is experience. And when you
Mhm.
talk about the military, there's a couple of ways to get it. You can stop loss. Well, that's going to make people mad, and they're not going to want to stick around. You're not going to have the best quality. You could do a recall. Well, then you're going to have the same situation. You're going to have
Explain to
mad people.
people explain to people what that is, because people who aren't military
Yeah.
won't know.
So stop loss would be basically if you're getting ready to leave your job and they said, nope, you got to stay. Still going to get paid and everything like that, but you can't leave. And then
Mhm.
a recall would be, hey, I left my job, and now 2 weeks later, they're short on staff. So they call me back,
Yeah.
and you have to come back. Um, so both scenarios aren't the best, but they are options. So that triggered an idea in me, which was bring the experience back. Well, that's easy because we already identified that, right?
Mhm.
But the two ways to do it are not like right, in my opinion, or not the best way.
Right,
So
for
my
the
thought is,
people,
yeah,
because you wanna think about humans at the same time.
yes, you want them to be there because they want to be there.
Mhm.
Most people, I would venture to say, that join the military are there because they want to be. Yeah, you got some that don't have any other options, and the
Yeah.
military is a great option at the end of the day, and gives you stability and a good life at the end of the day. That being said, way to do it and bring it back is through mentorship. So my thought was bringing in place mentors in the different levels, at different leadership levels beside those leaders, that has been approved by the higher up level, that has the commander's intent, the leader's intent in mind, and can be there as that sounding board, if you will, so that they can ask the questions, they can get the experience without
Mhm.
having to have that fear of repercussion, because they might ask a question that they should have already known the answer to, or
Mhm.
should have already dug into themselves, giving them that peace of mind and that person that has that knowledge and experience. So that's where I started VRBG. And out of that, it's jumped into a few different arms, because ultimately that's a long-term goal.
Tell them
Uh,
what VRBG is, that though.
So that stands for
The
Veteran
name.
Reach Back Group.
Yeah, sorry,
And
Veteran Reach Back Group.
yep.
Yeah.
And so under that one, the long-term goal is to be able to ideally pair up and get that mentorship in place, in no matter how it happens. I don't care
Mhm.
if I'm involved or any of that. I just think it's a good idea that can be implemented at some point by somebody that's smarter than I.
And
Um,
we've already invested so much in those service members,
yeah.
that it's a way for that investment to continue to pay. That's selfish, but it's a way for that investment to continue to pay. And the vast majority of military of service members want to continue to help their brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. And so in my example, in aviation, for example, if I, as a safety officer and former pilot, and I'm probably not the best example because I wasn't the best pilot, but here I am. I'm the one that you're talking to, so I'm the example you get. But taking somebody that has been removed 1 to 5 years from the military and be able to leverage them in technology that we have today, there's no reason that I can't put on a VR headset and fly a virtual mission with a military member out of Fort Campbell and share that knowledge and experience. And it's pennies on the dollar for what they would spend on a traditional training event and things like that. And it's done in a comfortable environment for both parties so that the knowledge is truly shared from that aspect.
I love that
in
idea.
that
And they already use VR, virtual reality training, right?
one. Mhm.
So they're already used to that. It's just
Yep.
plugging in the resources who've already been there, done that, plugging their experience into the mix and combined with the mentorship.
Yeah. And it's not lost on me that that's not an easy task or something that would happen overnight. It
Yeah.
would take a lot of brainstorming and smart folks to circle the wagons and really make something great out of that idea. Um, that being said, my brain doesn't stop to drive my wife crazy probably, but
That's why we were on so long yesterday.
yeah,
Ping pong balls,
yeah.
both of us.
I ended up doing under the VRBG umbrella. I've got where I do CRC consulting, which is combat related special compensation that retired and medically retired veterans can apply for. And there's 4 different criteria for that. And there's a lot of scary words around it. And what I've done is built out a PowerPoint that breaks it down Barney style. If you remember the old purple cartoon guy, so that people like me can read it and understand and digest what the actual words mean and how to make it happen without getting stressed out or feel like they're going to lose out because of the way that the stuff is worded. And I send that to just about anybody and everybody that I can get ears on a veteran that I have either met, known, or will know to help them out with that.
So, and those are people who are transitioning out, and it's about resources available, or what is it?
So the combat related special compensation is a benefit that an individual earns through combat related injury. So for me, I'm rated at 100% PTSD combat related. So for me, I fall under that criteria to receive that instead of my retirement. So ultimately, it allows me to have my retirement tax free. Is the
Yeah.
basic easiest way to break it down in an aspect of that. And then I've gone on to do rack, which is what you're seeing today. I've always been a creative mind. You can't see it, but I've got my trumpet sitting here. I've got my tattoo machine sitting here beside me that I pick up and play with from time to time.
Oh, cool.
So out of my creative side, I built out rack, which allows me to create all sorts of designs and things like that. And I do it more for me because I want shirts that I want to wear. So I buy my own stuff. And then if other people buy it, cool. If not, whatever, I'd still get to do my own designs and have some fun with it. And then another piece of it is P&P design, where it stands for pride and professionalism. And what I do there is I collaborate with schools, nonprofits, booster clubs, small businesses, and one-offs. I just had a local athletic association for their directors. We're in here right before we got on this call, where sit down with them and we build their collection of designs, whether it's on T-shirts, cups, wine glasses, puzzles, pretty much anything they want to put it on. I host their site, and then ultimately they no longer have to worry about doing parent bulk orders or any of that. It's easy cheesy for them. They sit down with me. We create they either send over their items that they have logos already established, or I create them for them, put it on the items they want, get their thumbs up, get the site published, and then from there they get a QR code. They send it out to their parents. Parents go directly there. They're shopping like they're on Amazon. It directly ships to their house. And so the organization doesn't have to deal with collecting money. They don't have to worry about late people showing up ordering late. They don't. It takes all their hassle out. And it kind of shocked them, I think, when I told them my business model. And most people look at me funny when I say it, but I've been very blessed in my retirement and disability and working for Microsoft. So, and I'm a fan of Shark Tank. For anybody that pays attention to that show, I believe it's Kevin O'Leary that talks about if you shouldn't want 90% of a grape, you should be aiming for, if anything, 10% of a watermelon or some semblance to that,
Uh-huh.
right? Point being, you get more out of a watermelon even if you're only getting 10%.
Right.
So my thought is, I want to grow a watermelon patch. So what I've done is reached out and built, I think I'm up to 12 different agencies where we've built them collections. And the way it works is they don't pay $1. Ultimately, they get their QR code. I don't charge them any upfront to build their collection. They then send out the QR code, their parents order. I do a scrub of their collection sales for the month. I send them a check for 90% of their profit. I also let them set their profit margin. So if they say, hey, we want to do a run of a special order, special design for this particular fundraiser, cool, let's do it. We'll set the profit margin, whatever it is, and they get 90% of it every month whenever they do it. So it's a relatively passive income for them, as well as zero overhead and a great way to fundraise in a customized way that they don't have to worry about doing Boston Butts, coupon sales, the
Yeah.
same stuff that everybody in the community is doing in every organization.
And you're like,
So,
they're coming again. Well, I can say I used to own an e-commerce and fulfillment company,
nice.
and it's a pain in the I'm not going to say it, even though I have my sailor's breath. But yeah, it's a total pain. And even if you're not having to do the fulfillment and everything, just to have to even think about all the details is it's just so overwhelming. And all these people have better things to do, whether it's a
Absolutely.
sports team or a company or a nonprofit or whatever. So the
Yep.
fact that they can come in, spend a little bit of time with you, walk away and be done and everything's going, that's awesome. And for 10%, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, that 10%, if I do it right, and so far, knock on wood, I
Yeah.
started the PMP stuff about a month and a half ago. And so far I've got about 12 different
Uh-huh.
groups that are lined up under it with collections. And again, I do a write up for them where I do the creeper thing where I get on their social media
Yeah.
accounts for their business or whatever it is and
Uh-huh.
glean different elements. And then I put it together leveraging AI, then put it out there back to them to review. And so far, been able to knock it out of the park with them. And a lot of the feedback I get is you've written it better than I would have been able to tell my own story.
That's
Um,
awesome.
because I think when other people look at our stories, they're much like we're doing right now. You're able to pull apart different elements that individual may not see. So being able to spin it in a new light and present it to them has been pretty cool to see them light up when they read it and see their engagement. So
And that right there is another good lesson for people, whether it's t-shirts and promoting that, or whether it's your own work, your resume, whatever. We are all too close to our own stuff. We can't see it. We're in the middle of the woods, so we can't see the forest because we can see the individual trees. So anytime you can have somebody else look at your stuff and give you feedback and you be willing to take the feedback,
that ain't easy,
it isn't. It isn't,
especially
especially
when
if
you're
it's something
passionate
you've
about
done
something.
yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that they're willing to turn that over to you and they trust you, but then they get it back and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
Yeah. It's fun for sure. Um, and then ultimately, I've got partner with Training 101. We're doing some other training events online for don't quote me on it. I'm gonna mess it up. My partner's gonna kill me. But he's got so many things going with his his black belt stuff and PMP and all that jazz. So, um, but that's a new one that we're getting into to launch for the Huntsville area as well as the different areas that he has. And again, I wish I could talk more on it right
Is
now, but
this
I
about
just
the
don't have it off the top of
resilience
my head.
building leader program? Okay,
It
I'm
is.
going to read you what Emilio said in the
Yes.
comments. VRBG is an authorized training partner with the Resilience Building Leader Program. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I can't see. Resilience Building Leader Program. Next cohort starts April 17th.
That's it.
Do you
And
want to
he's going to
explain
kill
what
me
it
for not being
is?
able to remember that.
Oh, it's okay. It's all right. Do you want to explain what the cohort is or how that works in case there's somebody listening who might want to participate later?
This is going to make me look awful, but I don't know a lot of the details in
That's
it.
okay.
As far as that respect, it really is his
Okay.
area of expertise.
And you
In
come
this
in and
part
help
of it,
with
I'm
the
more of
training.
a facilitator for
Yeah,
it
yeah.
from that
Gotcha.
aspect.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha. Well, Emilio, send me some information and we will add it. I'll do
he's
a
going to kill
post
me,
about it and we'll also add a link on there. But that's okay, John. See, I didn't know, but that's the beauty of how we talk. I don't like planned conversations,
right?
and here's the thing, that's another lesson for people listening. If you don't know, just say you don't know. Don't
Exactly.
pretend like you know something when you don't, because then you either look like a jackass. I am going to say you look like a jackass, or you could end up really hurting somebody. So just
Absolutely.
say I don't know, and I'll tell you later, and I'll find out and I'll tell
Exactly.
you later, and everybody's fine with that. And if they're not, they're a jackass. So
I love it. Yeah, and I'm that person too that I'll ask a question in a room, even if I know the answer, because if I look around and see that people don't get it,
yeah,
I why not ask a question? What if I catch a little flack for asking a question? Somebody looks at me like, "Oh, you should have known that." Well, I should have, and by the way,
hmm
I probably did. But guess what? The 600 individuals that you're sitting there talking above their head, they didn't.
yeah,
So I can look at them and tell that they're introverts and they're not going to say anything. So
yeah.
why not? Like, at least this way, I'm ensuring that the information is getting out there, even if everybody else in the room knows it.
hmm
I'd rather ask the question and not have to worry about it than not ask the question, then look like a fool afterwards because I should
Exactly.
have known it, kind of deal,
hmm
if that
Yeah,
makes sense. But
yeah.
uh, definitely.
Well, I
Um,
don't think you're doing enough, John.
well, we haven't even got to the best part yet.
Okay.
The Eagle Rising Foundation
Oh,
is
yeah.
the nonprofit that I started last year. Emilio and I are the founders on that. And how that kind of sparked out was obviously the tragedy and everything that came with that. And I'll elaborate on that a little more. But really, when I retired out, my wife loves Halloween. She throws a party every year. We dress up, we do costumes, friends come over and everything like that. Well, when we moved here, the kids were a little younger, so I wanted to do something for them. So I went out on the backside of the property and started doing a haunted trail where it was just me at first.
Uh-huh.
And you wouldn't think that'd be scary, but put somebody in 3 acres of woods in the dark and some random dude wandering through makes them a little nervous.
Yeah.
So did that for a few years, and then a couple of years ago had the conversation with my son's coach about fundraising and doing different things instead of the same old. So coordinated with him, got him and the baseball team out here, and we opened it up to the public. And so we had people come out. The first time we did it for 2 nights. Last year we did it with 4. um, Baseball team cuts to come out as workers. They even the ones that come kicking and screaming end up kicking and screaming because they don't want to leave when it's all said
Yeah.
and done because they're having such a great time. um, but what we do is open it up to the public. They come out, the baseball team works it, and I do all the building and prep work. And now Eagle Rising Foundation is a supporter, if you will, if that makes sense, the best way
Uh-huh.
to put it. And through that, I'm able to, we just got permanent power back there this past year. And ultimately, all the funds we raised gets handed right back to the baseball team as a donation back to them. And ultimately, it's due to the fundraiser thing.
That's so
Uh,
cool. So you're giving them the opportunity to do some kind of a fun project, in that case, the Halloween trail, and
yep.
they get to help put it together, help plan it, they help execute it, and then they make money off of it. Their organization makes money off of it.
Yeah. And really, the 4 days that they spend working it is where they're out there. Actually, we have the gates open. People are showing up and they're scaring people.
Yeah.
And last year we were able to write a check for $6,000 for the four
Wow.
days. Hoping to do twice that this year. Just because I'm people call it optimistic. I call it working my ass off to make stuff happen. But anyways, plan to do better, bigger and better this year. I keep adding on to it because I don't want to ever have it stale. I want people to come back every year and go, God, that was something new. That I didn't see that coming.
That's
As
cool.
well as the athletic association that I was just mentioning before we got on this call. Open it up to them. So
Mhm.
ideally, that's going to be four instead of just a baseball program. They have baseball, football, volleyball, soccer, softball. So we're going to open it up to all of theirs.
That
So
is so
ideally,
cool. What
yeah,
a much more fun way, again, going back to fundraising that we mentioned before with the
you got to
product.
put the fun in fundraising.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what a much more fun way and productive way to raise funds because people are happy to be part of it. They're not just buying something that they don't really want or that they have a
Exactly.
thousand of or whatever. That's cool.
Exactly. Um, and then, so that's my one yearly project for the
Mhm.
nonprofit that I really put a lot of focus into for a good solid 2.5, 3 months of the year. Because as me and you have talked about, and this whole ordeal, planning is key on any nonprofit business execution of whatever you're trying to accomplish. You've got to
Mhm.
put in the planning, you got to put in the work to make it successful.
Uh,
Unless you're just crazy like me and you try and do something wild and
yeah,
short
fly by the
term.
seat of your pants. I never do that. You know I don't.
I mean, you got to have a little bit of both, I think,
That's
in
right.
life for
It's like
sure.
a general told me years ago. He's like, fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Uh-huh.
So
But I'm also the person that after 3 deployments with the medevac, you learn real quick that as soon as the wheels come off the ground, every plan you had went out the window, and you got to make sure that, yes, you've got a guide that you
right.
kind of go by, but everything in between gets a vote on that.
That's
So
right. And I look at it as your plan, even though you plan details, it ends up being the big picture. So
exactly.
once you plan that thing, you understand your big picture, you understand what you want to do, what you want to achieve, how you want to get there.
Yep.
Then you figure it out along the way.
Yep. And that's the thing when you look at air assault and things like that, and the level of detail that they put into their
Mhm.
planning and things like that. If you don't put in that level of detail and you don't have that so ingrained,
Mhm.
you don't have that muscle memory to go back to hit that bigger plan. Um,
Right.
so I definitely think there's definitely something to having that uh, full thought out plan and really understanding what it is that you're trying to accomplish and the details is there so that when it does go sideways, you know which way you need to turn because you know which way each one of those turns is going to take you, you know.
And you're not having to think about the small things that will be huge things if you do them wrong. You're not
Right.
having to think about them because your muscle memory, your brain memory is taking over. You're able to concentrate on the new things that you have to filter through and make decisions on.
Absolutely. Um, let's see. Oh, on the Eagle Rising Foundation.
Yeah.
So I told you about the one um, year one project, but the bigger thing for Eagle Rising and really what I'm pushing for long term is my mentorship programs. And there I've got 10 different ones identified. And if you'll oblige me, I'll just kind of rattle them off.
Sure.
But I've got some creative names for them. I do leverage AI on my stuff because I write how I talk, and I think I already
Mhm.
said that once. But anyways, so pitmaster proteges, startup Sherpas, tech elders, Green Thumbs United, artisan apprenticeships, financial guru, culinary crossroads, wordsmith workshops, mentor melodies, and wellness warriors. And out of all those, you I hope that you see that I'm trying to capture a holistic person at the end of the day.
Yeah.
To me, if you're extreme on anything, it's not good.
Yeah.
Moderation is the key on many, many things. So with this, I wanted to capture holistically. If somebody came here, they would see something that they were very familiar with and very comfortable with, and a few things that they weren't. that
Mm-hmm.
they may be intrigued and want to learn more about. And then under these programs, I'm my tout is I'm doing mentorship differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when we talk about mentorship, when we talk about knowledge sharing, and we talk about the different things, everybody wants money.
Yeah.
It's what makes the world go round. I'm not ignorant. The thing is, we're not all in a position to be able to pay for things and get things and do these kind of things. So under the mentorship program, for the barbecue example, the thought being, mentor comes in and says, I love barbecue. I'm passionate about it. I want to teach somebody about barbecue. They come in, they sign up or register through the program. They're able to select a virtual meet and greet time, talking 15 minutes that they're available, and then a mentorship session time.
Mm-hmm.
From there, they're pretty much done. They wait and hang out. Mentee comes along and says, I want to get mentored on barbecue. I want to learn a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So then they come in, they register. That allows them to be able to see who the mentors are on the calendar and what they have available. They select the date and time that works for them. So now both are on par and know exactly what the schedule looks like without having to do a bunch of coordination. From there, they do their virtual meet and greet. If they jive, as I say, or they get along and they want to continue, then the mentor will trigger us back and say, "Hey, we're going to move forward." From there, they schedule the mentorship session, and that is when we, as a nonprofit, in this case, barbecue, we send them out a package, both to the mentor and the mentee. For barbecue, I'm looking at, and don't quote me on any of this because it's still all in development
Yeah.
as I'm doing this. But in the case of barbecue, thinking rack of ribs, pork butt, the
Mm-hmm.
spices, the sauces, the gloves, the foil, the basic utensils that you
Uh-huh.
would need to do that mentorship session, both are shipped out to the individuals. They receive them, they do the mentorship session, and ideally they record it in some form or fashion so that we can then take that and either do snippet back to put back on the YouTube channel and the site to help showcase what we're able to do,
Mm-hmm.
but also take ideally the best of the best and put it out on our YouTube site so that others that want to be mentored in those areas but maybe not commit to doing a
Mm-hmm.
mentorship session but want
Yeah.
to learn about it can go to that YouTube channel and then watch and see these videos of the mentorship sessions and the different mentors, and maybe they find one that they can relate to
Mhm.
before they ever sign up, right? So
So on
then
demand, they get to learn through what the other person did.
yes.
So let me ask you this. So the mentorship, some of them will be about business or
Hmm.
a job or whatever, and some will just be about fun, interesting things.
Yep.
And people can pick as many or as little, many or as few as they want. And then I also want to point out some might be for fun, like barbecue, but that could turn into a business because
Oh,
somebody can be
absolutely.
like, oh my God, I love this. And then they create their own recipe. And it's so awesome that they buy one of those travel barbecue pits, whatever the heck you call them,
Yep.
and take them all around. Hey, Donnell, I see Veterans Growing America. Donnell's on here. Hey, I love that though, because again, business is important, careers are important, jobs are important, but a lot of times we get so stuck in thinking about our work, thinking about, I got to learn more about this, that we forget about learning more about things that are fun or interesting that could end up being more than a hobby later.
Absolutely. And under the Startup Sherpas program, my initial target is going to be transitioning veterans because it's close to my heart from
Yeah.
that perspective. And I want to target those that have the entrepreneurial spirit. And the way that I see doing that is being a former warrant. One of the biggest challenges that you'll see is the packet that you have to put together to even get looked at. That weeds out probably 90% of the folks that would waste their time in the whole process. So my
Mhm.
intent is to do something very similar so that whenever they sign up and they make it through, they're there and they're ready to work. But under that one, it'll be ideally a 2 year long program where the first year is spent with a lead mentor and 4 sub mentors, and then the sub mentors be focused in areas of expertise about starting a business.
Mhm.
So when you think about growing your professional network, figuring out your finances, your credit, your business credit, your overall, how am I going to fund this? Am I going to crowdfund? Am I going to do
Mhm.
traditional funding, all these different areas and nuances, but also still have that same package mentality that they get a computer, they get a LinkedIn profile for a year, they get a headset, they get a monitor,
Oh,
all the
that's so
things
cool.
that you're not used to having to worry about because you're working for somebody else. But when you
Yeah.
go do your own thing, now you've got to have your own stuff to work off of.
Mhm.
So instead of having to come out of pocket for that, we provide that to them ideally at the end of the year or close to the end of the year. They've either launched their business or getting ready to launch their business. And then the follow on year, they have that still the lead mentor that then can reach back to the greater group and we can circle the wagons and provide any coverage or support that they would need. The
Mhm.
thought being at the end of the second year, at that point, they're fully established in whatever the business is that they're going to be. And at the start of that one, I'm going to have a handshake agreement with the individuals that get into the program so that at the end of it, they either return in kind through sweat equity of mentorship or profit back or ownership of the business so that we have something to continue to give back to those that are following behind us in that aspect.
Right, so they're not just taking, they're
Exactly.
giving back so that they can help somebody else, whether it's through
Exactly.
time or money
Yep.
or equity.
Yep. And my thought process, and some people are going to shake their head when I talk about doing it as a handshake, but at the end of the day, I still believe in a handshake. And if I can't believe you on a handshake, I truly believe that if I have you sign a piece of paper, all that's going to do is waste my time and piss me off at the end of the day
Mhm.
because you're obviously not obliging by your own signature. So what's it going to do other than me go chase something? And
And
I,
pay a lot of legal fees.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I,
and like I told you
I don't say it
yesterday.
often, but I got a lot of things going on, and I like to push and promote and support
Yeah.
others as much as I can. And if I'm wasting my time on some dipshit, for lack of better words, then
Mhm.
I'm not able to do that.
Yep.
I'd rather let them part ways and go do their thing and be happy in life, and I'll continue to rock and roll and push others and do great things. So
Yeah, you take that hit and you learn a lesson and you learn more red
absolutely,
flags to look for, and like I told you yesterday, that's how Ryan Garrett and I operate. Ryan
yeah,
with 1111 Veteran Project, and, it's like, yeah, there's certain situations that you do have to have that stuff, but at the end of the
yeah,
day, if I can't trust you, I don't wanna work with you anyway, so
exactly,
and
and yeah,
I'm
I'm not naive
old-fashioned.
on the point you gotta have all the paperwork in place and all that,
Yeah.
because I know there's gonna people be like, "Oh, you've gotta have all the legal."
Yeah.
That's not lost on me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more the
There's time and
sentiment
place.
behind it.
Yeah, there's time and place, things that you have to have it, but I'm old-fashioned in that I say my word is my bond. If I tell you I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it no matter how much it hurts me. I'm gonna do it.
Absolutely. Um, well,
Oh, I was gonna say with the computer stuff, I need to introduce you to Mark Casper with Tech for Troops, a nonprofit here in Richmond, because what they do is they keep technology out of landfills. They get companies give them their old computers and everything, and they teach veterans how to refurb them, and they teach them how to use them and all this stuff.
nice.
And then they turn around, they'll give those veterans, equipment, and they're getting training, and then they also turn around and give equipment to veterans that need it. So they would be a great partner with that to plug in.
Yeah, that'd be a
And
great pairing for the packages for the, for yeah,
yeah,
either the
because
tech elders or the startup stuff, either one would be great
right.
from that
It would it
perspective for
would be
sure.
good for the equipment, but it would also
Mhm.
be good for training, because somebody might come
Yep.
out and go, "I wanna own my small business and I wanna do computer repair, and I know how to do my own, but I don't really know." So, yeah, I need to
Yep.
introduce y'all.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, my thought with, these programs is, 1, I want them to be a living and breathing kind of deal. I don't want them to stay and be stagnant. I want them to continue to, keep their essence, but also morph and be something that people want to go and engage with, and if I can grow them in different areas, then absolutely, that'd be ideal because at the end of the day, the whole point of it's to share that knowledge back with the community and get that what I like to call tribal knowledge back.
Yeah.
When we talk about simple things is knitting, crocheting, different things like that that we don't do anymore. And no, we don't necessarily have to.
But
We don't
it's
know what the future
fun.
ever holds. And
And
two, it's fun.
that's true. And it's also good for the soul. Somebody in my
Yes.
family deals with really high anxiety and other medical related things with that. And
Yeah.
she taught herself to knit, and she gets like so upset. Well, first she taught herself to crochet, and within like 2 or 3 months, she could do everything. So then she
Yeah.
taught
That's
herself
my
to
wife.
knit. She's like knitting amazing sweaters that look like something you'd buy in a really high-end store. She's only been knitting for like 6 months. I'm like, "What the heck?" And then in the meantime, she owns her own business and blah, 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 but
Yeah.
but it helped her through all of her inner demons and stuff.
Absolutely. And I think part of me wants that for everybody at the end
Yeah.
of the day is that area, that focus that they can have that's away from all their normal life, if you will,
Yeah.
be it, and I go back to the fact not everybody can afford to do different things. And even if they can, they could be in a situation where they don't have control of their money or whatever the
Right.
case may be, right? So
Yeah.
why even put that headache on people? Give them the opportunity to have a safe space to come in, learn, share knowledge,
Yeah.
communicate. When we talk about some of my fondest memories, hanging out in the kitchen with my mom and my grandmother. So the culinary one hits me to a T. I
Uh-huh.
do barbecue. That's another thing I didn't mention. When we talk about all the stuff I've got going, we're actually under contract to buy a piece of land and open a restaurant here locally.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
if everything goes right, it'll be middle to end of summer. Gonna open a brewing queue
Oh,
and
cool.
serve some barbecue and serve the local community, and also give a space for the community to leverage. Is
Yeah.
kind of my backhead plan. Is
Mhm.
almost, when able, do it maybe once a month, open it up as a community center, so that individuals, organizations, and things like that can leverage it, or do open events, because there is a open space outside that
Mhm.
if organizations want to do a fundraiser of a cookout or any of that stuff,
Cool.
it just gives the opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I just geek out on stuff like that.
I
So
love the multi layers. And also want to say, you mentioned that you want it to be a living thing. To me, that's so important. I always tell people my business is never the same day to day to day. And that's the only reason I'm still in business since 1996, because I would be bored out of my gourd. It's that,
absolutely.
and, but, and yes, you have to have a plan. Yes, you have to have a big picture, but to be to too many people are like, this is what I'm going to do, and they develop this rigid plan, and they get up every single day, and this is what they do, and they're like this, and they're not looking around them, and they just have their nose to the grindstone, and then in like 10 years maybe they're really successful, maybe they're making a lot of money, but then they go, I'm miserable.
Yeah,
And to everybody else it looks like, oh, they have it
they're winning.
all.
Yeah,
But then they're like, why am I so miserable? And it's because you didn't pay attention to what was going on around you. And if you're paying attention all along the way, you can tweak little things and
hmm,
make your business or nonprofit or whatever, it's a living organism, help adjust it along the way and to what you want out of life. And that's why I wrote my book, Disrupt Your Now. And that's why I do this show,
yeah,
because I want to encourage people to stop saying someday and one day.
right.
Figure out a way that you can start doing little things now, even if it's just paying attention to how you feel.
So
That feeling of when you're doing something or you have to do something, just that feeling where you just like you want to
you
puke.
don't want to.
Yeah, you're just like, God, either this makes me feel like I'm sick of my stomach, or it makes me feel like this, or whatever. Most of us ignore that because we're like, I just got to get through it. I got to do what I got to do.
Right.
Yes, we do have to do what we have to do, but I think it's so important to learn to recognize that those feelings in ourselves, not to get all new agey, whatever, but learn to recognize those feelings in ourselves so that later we can go back and go, I felt like this. Why did I feel like that? This
What
is a message to me.
and this is gonna probably sound ironic, but it's okay to say no. Coming from the
Yes.
person that never takes no for I told my kids years ago, I said, never tell yourself no, never accept the first no that you receive.
Yeah.
And the reason I say the never accept first no that you receive is because I found in life that there's a few reasons people tell you no. Generally, it's because they don't know the answer,
Hmm.
they don't want to go find the answer, or they're scared to go find the answer. It's generally one of those three. Very seldom will somebody that actually knows the answer and can answer the question
Hmm.
say no. Most of the time, I found that they'll actually listen to what you have to say and then articulate the no back in an intelligent, articulate manner that you can
Hmm.
go, oh, okay, I understand why I'm getting the no, not just a flat no.
Yeah.
And then the never telling yourself no comes into what you're just talking about. If I tell myself no, it's a guarantee 100% it'll never happen. But
Yeah.
if I force myself to tell myself yes, that I'm going to move forward with something and make somebody else tell me no, then that automatically gives me a 50-50 shot.
Hmm.
Well, that's Vegas odds all day long. Slightly
Yeah,
better, actually.
really. You'd love to have it. I
Yeah.
tell
So,
my husband, if you want me to do something, tell me not to do it. And I'm like, please, please don't tell me to do so. One of these
right,
days, I'll tell you the story. That's how our riding lawnmower ended up in the lake because he told me not to mow the hill with it,
all right,
which I never would have done. But he told me not to. And then I'm like,
all right.
damn it, I'm mowing that fucking hill. But
Yeah, I'm gonna do
anyway,
it.
but that's part of the reason that I'm like, I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to do it. And also, as I mentioned to you the other day, my father was blind and I never heard him say, I can't do that. If it was
Yeah.
something he wanted to do, he figured out a way to do it.
Another phrase I love is nothing's impossible.
Hmm.
It's only not been figured out yet.
Yeah,
Think about throughout our recorded history. At any point, you could pick anything that a human has accomplished, and a day before that, somebody would have told you it was impossible.
that's right. And
So
when
living in
people
that
that are like,
mentality,
"Oh, I don't believe that because I can't see it." I'm like, "Well, there's a lot of things in life that you well, even this. Okay, we
yeah,
can't see the data going through, but hey, I see you and I see me. We see each other.
exactly,
And so we might not understand, I mean, I'm a web developer, so I know like the programming stuff, but
right,
I don't know the network stuff. So the
yeah, yeah,
point is you don't have to understand how things work and you don't have to believe everything, but get over yourself and start believing in things that do seem too big to be possible. You got to
absolutely.
dream big, right, John?
You got to dream big, and you got to also understand that it's okay to dream big. Now,
Hmm.
the nuance of that is, if you want that dream to come true, you got to get off your ass and work for it.
That's right.
Nobody's going to work as hard as you are for what you want.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be as big an advocate for you as you. So being able to understand that, whether you're introvert, extrovert, avoid conflict, you don't like doing like whatever the excuse is,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's an excuse.
Yeah.
Everybody's got one. We all know the analogy. That's where you have to stop, in my opinion, take the 5 seconds, rebroach on your life and go, all right, this is where I am. Take a realistic view and go, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be? Where do I want my kids to be? Where do I want my relationship to be? Where do I want my business to be? And you
Hmm.
set out on that path and you start working that every step. And one thing I'll tell people, I've you've told me today, yesterday, and a couple of the other agent from or the other person from the fundraiser group uh, brought it up, and I should have recognized it before, but I didn't. When you're talking about a goal,
Hmm.
um, made mention about bringing it down so you can move the marker faster. Same concept when you ask, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. So for me, what I started doing when I started VRBG and Eagle Rising was started doing micro projects. So instead of focusing on, I've got to do a full development of collection for these individuals,
Hmm.
I'll take in between a 5 minute meeting, instead of playing on my phone, playing video games, I'll jump over, mess around with my prompts, get about 10 in 5 minutes, jump back over, do my meeting. If I've got a break in a meeting, I jump back over, I'll do something else. Now take the prompt, put it into Dolly, create my images, jump back over, do my thing. So instead of trying to eat this big old thing in one lump sum, I've started breaking it down into those micro projects that I can accomplish and see the mark move faster, to y'all's point,
Yeah.
which it blows my mind that I didn't even think about that
Well,
when I
it's the basic
started talking
things that
about the
we don't.
campaign stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 99% of the people that are listening have no freaking idea what you just said about the prompt. So, y'all, he's talking about AI. So,
Yeah.
I need to have you on another day, John, to talk about AI, because most people are like, they hear it every day, AI, 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 but they're like, they have no clue how it's related to them, other than it might take over the world one day and they'll lose their job or whatever. They have
Right.
no idea how they could relate it to themselves. We still haven't gotten to to your other thing though, with the foundation, the wall.
Yeah. So that's the one where we kind of hinted around of the planning and things. To make things happen, you need to plan, and you shouldn't go off the cuff, and you shouldn't do all these things. Well, I'm me, and I don't do anything small usually, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. But through the starting of Eagle Rising, I've managed to get in contact with some phenomenal folks across the United States. Yourself being one of those,
Well,
and
thank
a
you.
few others. That being said, I got introduced to some folks that do or build a 3/4 size Vietnam Memorial traveling wall, and they're a step different than most that have walls like this. Is they have 36 additional panels that are 2 feet wide that cover all of the fallen from
Mm,
Vietnam forward, including 9/11 tribute, World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam, Cold War, USS Pueblo, Medal of Honor winners. The list goes on. Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Somalia, Cole attack, Fort Hood attack. I could go on,
I
but
have
point
chill
being,
bumps.
there's 70,000 plus names that are on this wall,
Mhm.
between the Vietnam 3/4 size replica and the additional panels. So I go to Talladega every year. We got spots in the infield for spring and fall. Absolutely fell in love with it after I started going. The camaraderie that's there, the fun, the party environment, the racing. It's just my kind of place.
Mhm.
Um, and also seeing the stuff that they've done in the past with veterans. They have the local uh, organizations come out and generally do the national anthem. They'll have flyovers from the National Guard or local guard units or agencies around. So I know that they're in that realm, in belief and patriotism and everything like that. So I was like, this is a perfect pairing. Bring this wall, stage it in front of Talladega. Let the people that are going to Talladega, 200 plus thousand, celebrate these 70,000 plus fallen, while also giving those 200,000 plus, or whatever the number is, the opportunity for the ones that wouldn't be able to make the tribute to DC or couldn't,
Mhm.
have the opportunity to go pay tribute to not just the Vietnam fallen, but all the other ones that are more in line with the age groups from then.
Yeah.
That being said, the wall doesn't come cheap. As most things, anything worth having ain't cheap or easy, right? So I've been able to manage in short order raising the funds to get the wall there from the company. I've also been able to get the owner of the company, when he found out that they wanted to charge, he said, "We're not doing it. We're not going to go there. We've been all over the place and never have we been charged.
Yeah.
The sponsors have never been charged." So that was a hurdle I got him to concede on, which was not an easy task. He's a Vietnam veteran. He's retired lieutenant colonel and been doing his business for 30 years. So
Yeah.
not somebody to easily change their mind, but got his team to rally behind me and get him to change his mind and support, which I thought was phenomenal. So covering the cost of that, I've also been able to coordinate some folks out of Counts Customs that are supposed to be lined up to come hang out with us and support us with that. And then the more important and most important individual that I've met thus far is somebody that 99% of Americans will never have even heard of before they listen to this, if they are listening. And his name's Earl Smith. And Earl was a E3 in 1961 EOD tech that got the call when a B-52 crashed in the Carolinas that had a
Mhm.
H-bomb on board. He had to go out and disarm it.
Wow.
He obviously did that successfully because we still have half our East Coast, but nobody knew about that because the
God.
mission was classified for the last 50 years. It was unclassified 11 years ago in 2013, and he wrote a book. That book
What's the
got
name
in
of
the
the book?
hands that I don't know, and
Okay, I
I'll
will
have to
find
look
it.
it up.
Yeah.
I'll have to put it back out there. I should
No,
know it off
that's
the top of my
okay.
head,
We'll find it.
but he wrote the book. It got in the hands of Mark Wahlberg, and then apparently Mark Wahlberg came back, and I don't know all the details, but got the script and then put the script in the hands of Gary Sinise and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
As of about 3 weeks ago, whenever I met Earl, that had just happened for him. So
Uh,
he was super excited, and I was stoked to hear about it and stoked to have the conversation with him. But he's going to come out and support.
oh, that's so
So
cool.
while I've been able to raise the funds for getting the wall there, which being transparent, it's 11.5, and then paying other areas to get folks there as part of that and whatnot. There's still a $20,000 overhead that the track's charging for the rental fee. And I understand they got to make money.
Yeah.
I understand. I have no hard ill will against them. I'm determined. I'm hard headed and stubborn. And I guarantee you, everybody at that track that I've talked to would agree with that statement. And ideally, I'll have a chance to meet them face to face when this is all said and done, and shake their hands, and we'll put on a hell of a show out
Yeah.
there. But right now, I'm still working to get that raised, whether through corporate sponsorship, and like I told you, it's a crazy tight schedule. Trying to raise that kind of money in short order is dang near
Yeah.
impossible. I'm not lost on that, but I'm also stubborn, like I said.
Yeah,
So
you're not gonna not do
I'm not gonna
it.
I'm not gonna draw back until I absolutely have to. And
Yeah.
I've managed to hopefully coordinate to be able to, worst case scenario, bring it to a RV park, veteran owned RV park that's right outside the track. And
Okay.
still have it hosted there, still support and celebrate the 70,000 and give those people an opportunity to come celebrate with us out there, whether we're at the track or not.
Yeah.
Because to me, again, it's not about the money. It's not about any of that. It's about celebrating those 70,000 and giving others opportunity to pay their respects and just, I don't know.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't if people out there don't have people who are military or don't have family members that they've lost, sorry, they might not understand what's the big deal, names on a wall, but it's a
Yeah.
huge deal. I'll
Yeah.
never forget when my husband's a Vietnam veteran. I'll never forget when we first went to the Vietnam Wall and he was looking for people that he served with. And,
Yeah.
it's a way for them to connect with them. It's a way to honor them. It's a way, especially for the Vietnam guys, to feel a little bit of respect, because of the way
And
they were treated when they came back.
absolutely. And sadly, time has a way with things, right? And time gets a vote, and our Vietnam veterans are leaving at a exponential rate,
Yeah.
and
My husband's 77
yeah. So
and
it's
he has early dementia. So
uh,
it's like, and he's in great health for compared to most people,
right.
you know?
And
So, yeah, we don't have much time left to honor them.
absolutely. And then, you look into the next generation, because there are many, 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 many other names have fallen
Yeah.
across many other instances and wars since Vietnam.
Mhm.
And there's nothing out there like it to really showcase them like this does. And that's one thing I want people to understand. It's not just a Vietnam memorial wall. It truly is a veteran memorial wall,
Yeah.
tribute to them and celebrate of them and the sacrifice they made for all of us.
And again, it's honoring them, but it's also healing to the people they served with and to their family members. Mike Evok, the guy who founded Racing for Heroes, one of the nonprofits that we promote through our racing, he has a memorial car that he
Mhm.
takes that has the names of all the special operators that have been lost since 9/11 because he's a special forces guy. And, he backs off and just lets people Again, people who don't have somebody that they've lost or didn't serve don't understand that it's truly like going to their memorial, you know? And but anyway,
Absolutely.
I love what you're doing, and I want long term, I want us to help you get that thing all over the country. And I know they're already going all over the country, but in relation to racing, I
Yeah,
want to do
absolutely.
racing events all over the country.
And that's kind of for me, it's not an end here with this one.
Yeah.
It's something I think could be celebrated across the U.S. in different race forms and different race tracks. Everything from Freedom Factory out of Florida, which I'd mentioned at one
Mhm.
point, that ideally we'll be able to connect with them and celebrate it with them. They're big patriots. The gentleman that is the owner and runs that brought a track back from 2 years of being abandoned, and now it's a
Mm.
celebrated track that has people there doing their thing, which I
I
think is
love that.
phenomenal. So
Yeah,
being
that's
able to
so
engage
great.
with smaller programs and smaller tracks like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be at just the big ones. But yeah, so I love that, John. I love that you're doing so many awesome things that my brain is still going from us talking the other day, figuring out how to fit all this stuff together, you know?
Right. Like I told you, I appreciated the conversation because very rarely do I get to communicate with somebody that understands how my brain bounces around from all the different projects that I have going, and can jump from one to the other and be there in the conversation. Because unfortunately, most people look at me and they're like, "You lost me about 3 steps into that. Like I don't know where to go, what and what's where and what pieces." And so,
Oh, I know exactly how you feel. And they're like, okay, but yeah, I tell people it's like a pinball machine. If they're old enough to remember a pinball machine, that it's like especially when two people get to talking like us, it's like your ideas, they just bounce off each other and they go all over the place. But we both know it's like we each have a paddle and we both know what's going on. We just don't know yet where the ball's going to go.
exactly. Yep.
That's funny.
For sure.
Well,
Uh,
I've had you for over an hour, so I'm going to let you go. But before we go, I want you to tell people how they can connect with you, how they can learn more about what you're doing, how they can, if there are any companies out there, CEOs, whatever, listening, how they can find out more about how they can back your projects.
Yeah, real simple. www.eaglerisingfoundation.com. I've not a web designer, so when you see it, I'd love any feedback you have. I've tried to set it up as best I can to really showcase what the programs are going to be, what the wall and the intent behind it is, as well as options for donating and connecting with us in the long term.
Yeah.
Because again, for me, I don't want to just have a one and done. I'd like to have a growing relationship with anybody that's involved with us in either the very smallest form or full on engagement and expertise, because I don't want to do this in a vacuum. I want to get
Yeah.
smart people in a room, virtual room even, and really build these out and make them something really cool. So
And I want to remind anybody out there, as I mentioned before, anybody with a company that might have the money to partner with something like this, I want to remind you that having a higher purpose in your business is not about giving up money for something. It's about working towards a higher goal. And when you do something with the military community, you are literally working with a true cross section of America, because any type of individual that you can imagine is part of the military community. I don't care what ethnicity, race, religion, anything, sexual preference, anything. Um, so, because the military is a true cross section of America, it's a great way to touch everybody and have it ripple out. And so, I highly, highly um, ask big. You
right,
could
I'm
reach out to John or me to talk about how you can work with Eagle Rising and or 1111 Veteran Project to do some things that literally touch multiple generations. And we're in it for the long haul, like you, John. We're in
absolutely.
it. Colin he's 24 now, I think. I always forget. I think he's 24. So he's going to be, we've got another at least 20 years that he's going to be racing, and then we're going to be keep going after that, even if Ryan and I aren't around. So,
Right.
it's a long-term commitment, just like with you. So
Yep.
anybody we partner with is somebody who can count on us being there for them for years and years. And I know that
Absolutely.
you're the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then the one last thing I would like to throw out there, because my headset is about to die on me. It's already
Okay.
yelled at me twice, but is ROI just isn't about money. Return on investment just isn't about the bottom dollar. It really boils down to what are you going to get back out of whatever you put your time and investment in? Are you going to get money? Maybe. Are you going to get friendships, networking, a potential opportunity that's going to go tenfold of what the money or time that you invested? That's where I look at ROI, and I really encourage other leaders to do the same, because yes, you need to look at your bottom line as a business owner,
Yeah.
whether you're a profit or nonprofit business. But at the end of the day, you can get a lot of bang for your buck just out of conversations like we've had today, and the connections and relationships that you build out of that are priceless at the end of the day. So,
Exactly. I couldn't have said it any better, John. I've had so much fun talking with you tonight, and I will be talking with you again soon. Thanks for joining me.
absolutely, ma'am. And I appreciate the time you've given me today and the conversations we've had. And I definitely look forward to future conversations.
And I want to partner with your the mentorship program.
Yes,
I want to
ma'am.
be one of the mentors.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you. And that's open to anybody that looks on the website and sees the programs. I would love for anybody to reach out that has a passion in any one of those areas, because I
And
really do
create a
want to.
new one. Create a
Yeah,
new one if they have an idea that you don't already have, right?
absolutely. I'm all for that for
Yeah,
sure. Can't do it in a box.
that's right. All right. I'll talk to you soon, John. See
All
ya.
right. Thank you. Have a
And
great
I'll
night.
see everybody else next week.
Thanks, y'all. See you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.